Okay.
9 years of Hebrew school to be told how to pronounce a Hebrew word.
Well, you're getting told.
Imagine being Limbo but smaller.
Oh, imagine his body teleporting all the time. Whenever you want to try to revive it, just teleports.
I like how there was also 3 people trying to revive him, going back and forth.
All at the same time. We're all running around like, what the fuck is going on?
Captain Poopy Pants. We meet again.
My fellow godlies and Warframe enthusiasts around the world. I am Vance, bringing you the second episode of Warframe Devil Builds, and I really hope that the Hydroid Prime trailer that I released just a day before my birthday was something that you could enjoy, because I kind of rushed it, and I figured, hell, it was cheesy, it was corny enough that somebody would find it funny. Now, if you've waited for this water boy for quite a while, the wait is going to pay off, because this video is going to be stacked with new builds. Crazy stuff going on here. As a small disclaimer, I'm going to announce that, this doesn't have as much synergy, because what I want to do is just showcase all the different new weapon builds and companion builds, but he's still able to kill. He's still able to survive, and I'm sure Hydroid players are definitely going to enjoy this. So let's get straight into it. I think players of Hydroid, especially people who have been following the god builds for a while, are going to discover that not much has changed since the initial god builds. I'm still using Energy Siphon, Cunning Drift, Prime Continuity, Redirection, Constitution, Streamline, Prime Flow, Energy Conversion, and Pilfering Swarm. However, what I did swap out is one of the augments. I swapped out Curative Undertow for Spectra Siphon. Now, why did I do that? Well, it's pretty simple. Hydroid has one functionality that he does extremely well, and that is CC. So what we want to do with this build is make sure that he is able to continue and consistently put out CC as much as humanly possible. It's for that reason that I also have Arcane Guardian and Arcane Grace to help with his tankiness. Not that it's going to be very helpful here, however, you have a better shot at taking a few hits before you go down, and that's really what matters here. So with Curative Undertow out of the question, you may be wondering, well, what are we going to do for health return? Well, that's simple. If you've seen the Operator God builds, by now you need to go into your equipment and you need to get this enhancement called Magus Repair. What this will do is it will heal your Warframe within 30 meters by 25% of their health, and this is while in void mode. So all you gotta do is go out into your operator, go into the invisibility, and then poof, you're pretty much instantly healed, and any allies around you. It's really wonderful. There's no reason to use Curative Undertow anymore because of that augment, and that's why I've chosen to focus more on his energy loss rather than his health loss. You can still swap out these mods if you see fit. You can get rid of the Pilfering Swarm in favor of the Curative Undertow if that's what you prefer, or you can just swap out any augment for whatever one that you like. It doesn't really matter with this build. That's why I think that it's so versatile. You can make a configuration A that's, a pilfering configuration, and then configuration B for energy gain. It's really up to you. However, what I'm using with the weapons to just ensure that I get things done is the new beautiful Trumna rifle, which is just incredible. I've pumped 6 Forma into this thing, and I couldn't be happier other than the fact that its reload is just ungodly slow. However, what I would generally do in a Hydroid situation is just go into my undertow if I'm really in the need of a big reload. There's plenty of moments in Warframe where you'll have an area of opportunity to reload, so don't worry about that too much. Try to work it into your gameplay, or just use a different primary completely with Hydroid. But I'm using Point Strike, Vital Sense, Infected Clip, High Voltage, Prime Shred, Split Chamber, Serration, Hammer Shot, and then Stabilizer for the Exilus slot. It's really, really needed here. You'll notice that I've gone back to Heat and Corrosive with this build. That's because Corrosive seems to be a little bit more effective with this whole setup. It seems to do its job a lot better with heavy gunners and Juguluses, but again, this is one of those things that you can play around with. You can choose to replace your high voltage with an ice mod to make viral and see how well that suits you. Now for secondaries, I don't really much use this on Hydroid. I've incorporated this in my Avara build, but when you land a headshot and it's a lethal headshot, so the shot that kills the enemy is a headshot, this thing will get infinite ammo and it will do an insane amount of damage as it continues to fire over and over again. Again, this time I've also pumped 6 Forma into it. I feel like it was absolutely needed with this one. I've got the heat and viral procs going with Hornet Strike, Prime Target Cracker, Deep Freeze, Pathogen Rounds, Barrel Diffusion, Prime Pistol Gambit, Prime Heated Charge, and Lethal Torrent. Now if you didn't have a suppress mod for your Exilus slot, then it might not cost you as much Forma, but for me, again, I use it on Avara Prime, so it's needed for instances where I'm cloaked and I want to continue to put out the damage. Now the Keratinos, this is definitely a unique mechanic type of melee, because the Talons actually tend to grow whenever your combo multiplier is really, really high, and then once you do a heavy attack, your combo multiplier actually lasts for a full 3 minutes. It's pretty absurd. It was either this or the Quasis, and I'm just not really feeling fans. I'm just not a fan type of guy. I'm not a fan of fans, one could say. I think I might eventually, somewhere down the road, get those, but for right now, I just don't really want them. Warframe's in a really weird place right now. Digital Extremes has announced that the balancing team is out of the office, so I'm going to be waiting on hotfixes to kind of rebalance this game and make sure that Mark for Death isn't worthless. So Keratinos is the melee that I've chosen to go with, and this is probably your easiest reprieve from Forma stagger, because it only has 1 Forma. So all these other builds are going to be really, really in-depth except for this one. You've got your 4 Riders, Conditioned Overload, Virulent Scourge, Vicious Frost, Organ Shatter, Blood Rush, Carnus Mandible, Berserker, and Volcanic Edge. This will give you your classic viral and heat combination. It does pretty good, not as good as Venka Prime, but again, when you get that combo multiplier up to 12, all you gotta do is a heavy attack, and then the combo multiplier lasts for 3 minutes, so you can't argue with that. That's definitely a passive worth taking a look at. Now, before I get into my companion, I wanted to show off the Mazelon big ass art gun that we got just from getting a Necromech. I've pumped quite a bit of work into this thing as well. I've got 3 Forma, I've got Venomous Clip, Polarize, Polar Magazine, Ruby D-Line Barrel, Parallax Scope, Critical Focus, Sabot Rounds, Hollowed Bullets, and Dual Rounds. This thing is just a monster. It's just a beast for any type of enemy that you're bringing it to. I'm actually using it on my Protea build at the moment because Trunma is great and everything, but this seems to do more damage, reloads faster, and has the same type of secondary fire that the Trunma has. All in all, it just seems like the bigger, better version of the Trunma. So if ever you want to use a Trunma, this is also an incredible choice in weapons that you can bring to anything really. I mean, this works on Eidolon, this works on Profit Taker. It's just such a godsend to the Warframe community. The only place that it really doesn't fit too well is in Arcwing, so keep that in mind when you're building for this thing. Now on to the last bit of builds that I'm going to be showcasing for Hydroid. This is my Panzer Vulpophilia. It doesn't really matter the antigen or mutagen that you use with this. It's just based off of looks, especially considering how the fact that it doesn't matter whether this thing dies or not. So the unique thing about this companion is that whenever it goes down, it says that it needs to be revived, but what actually happens is it'll enter like a cocoon state, as showed off with this power right here, the Panzer Devolution. When it devolves into a larva form upon death, it spits quills at enemies, dealing 60 viral damage, and it respawns after 30 seconds. This is incredible. This basically means that you have a companion that's immortal, and you never have to worry about picking it up ever again. In fact, it's kind of like a treat for you, because if it does die, that doesn't mean that it's going to stop attacking. That just means that it's going to be a floating sentinel next to you, and it's going to continue to attack. So that's why I think that this companion works perfect with Hydroid, because you know he's pretty squishy himself, and if you use a companion that really doesn't care about dying, it'll just come back, it'll just keep coming back. This thing can do the damage for you, and boy oh boy does it ever. I'm using Synth Fiber, Hunter Recovery, Link Health, Link Shields, Viral Quills, Fetch, Prime Animal Instinct, Panzer Devolution, Maul, and Synth Construct. It synergizes pretty well with what we've got set up here. Primarily, your playstyle with Hydroid is to sink enemies in the undertow, preferably when they're already damaged, hurt, or affected with dot damage. That way they will progressively die quicker and quicker in your undertow, not to mention the fact that undertow will progressively damage them more and more over time. While you're in your undertow, you cast the Spectrage, and because the augment is present, you will drop energy orbs for about half of the enemies that die in your undertow. And this works really, really well, because if you're using Pilfering Swarm and you have your Spectrage, well then you're dropping loot, you're dropping energy orbs, you're just resupplying your entire team with what they need. Plus, if they ever get in a really tight situation, you can just hop into your operator, heal them really quick, and go back to CCing the crap out of everything. Again, the weapons that I'm using don't synergize too well with Hydroid. You can literally use whatever weapons you want with this guy, because weapons aren't going to matter. You're going to be running around doing CC, you're going to be hiding in your puddle, you're going to be trying to swoop up as many people as you can, casting your Tentacle Swarm. Y'all already know how to play Hydroid, why am I even talking at this point? So, if you learned something from this video and you liked it, it always helps if you smash that like button, comment, share, subscribe, do everything I always encourage you to do. And until next time, this has been Vance, signing out. Peace.